Hey, everybody, I just wanted to let you know that this podcast is brought to you by Kobold Press and Tales of the Old Margrave. The Tales of the Old Margrave Kickstarter is running right now for 5th edition. It is an update of an amazing forest campaign setting with tons of player options from Pathfinder to 5e. You should check it out. There is tons and tons of new content, and I helped contribute to it. That's right. Some of the monsters are totally new creations that have sprung out of my brain while working with other amazing Kobold Press designers like Matthew Corley, Wolfgang Bauer, and Megan Markle, who is an amazing editor. So you are going to want to head on over to Kickstarter and search for Tales of the Old Margrave right now, because forests and fantasy role-playing games are dark places full of secrets. The Margrave is an ancient, enchanted forest that defends itself from those who cut its timber, poach its creatures, or steal its magic. Within its borders, the old ways are strong, and the word of druids carries great weight. Griffins, dragons, and stranger creatures nest and hunt in this world, undisturbed by humans, dwarves, and other lordlings, until the adventurers show up. Check it out. You get 2 books, one full of adventures and awesome DM options for levels 1 through 10. Then the Margrave Player's Guide is a softcover book that is a tome of new player options, including new races, druid and ranger subclasses, tools, backgrounds, and forest-themed spells. There's a bevy of options here. You can get print, you can get PDF, you can get virtual tabletop options. So check it all out over at Tales of the Old Margrave on Kickstarter.com, or head on over to KoboldPress.com and click on the link there. This is Tabletop Babble. I'm James Introcaso. Today on the show, I am super excited to be talking with the producers of Worlds Apart. It is an amazing YouTube D&D show produced by friend of the pod, James Haeck, and Hannah Rose, who is never been on this pod before, but we really should have had her on sooner, and you will see why. They're both super intelligent and amazing, and this show is incredible. James is also a game designer, as is Hannah, so we get into game design a little bit as well. I promise you, you're going to love it. Here's the interview with them. Okay, everybody, now I am here with 2 of my favorite people in the gaming industry and the world. Welcome to Tabletop Babble, James and Hannah. It is awesome to have you here. For people who don't know, who are you and what do you do in the world of tabletop role-playing games? And James, since you are returning to Tabletop Babble, why don't we start with you first?
Okay, it's great to be back. For one thing, I am James Haeck. I'm a tabletop game designer. James Introcaso and I recently, I guess it wasn't recently for us, but we worked on this cool book that you might have heard of called Waterdeep Dragon Heist for the D&D folks. And James and I we go all the way back when it comes to doing tabletop game stuff. I gave him his first RPG job, and editing his work was one of my first RPG jobs. So in the meantime, I've worked for Critical Role, and I'm the lead writer over at D&D Beyond as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a pleasure to work with you always, James, and thank you for starting me on the road in this wonderful world of role-playing games. I'm really, really excited to be talking with you about something really awesome and monumental that you have achieved with Hannah, of course. Hannah, for people who don't know, who are you and what do you do in the world of tabletop role-playing games?
I'm Hannah Rose. I'm James Haeck's partner, and we are working on this show that we're going to be talking about today. And I also do some editing and writing, so I will have some stuff on DM's Guild by the end of the year. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, absolutely. It is really, really cool to have you on as well, Hannah. Thank you for coming on and for arranging this, because I'm very excited to talk with you both about Worlds Apart today, which is your show that you are making on YouTube. And I want to talk about this because I think there is, in fact, I know for a fact, there is an enormous YouTube community for people who are making videos wherein they play or give advice or that sort of thing on D&D, and you have joined it. And I think it doesn't get a ton of focus necessarily because so many people are focused on Twitch and that sort of thing. So I want to dive into that a little bit. But before we get to there, first, let's talk about Worlds Apart. What is Worlds Apart?
So Worlds Apart is an actual play D&D 5th edition show. There's a lot of those out there right now, but ours is one in which we have 2 parties, and every week we will go back and forth between the adventures of these groups of heroes. And the idea for this show came around when I looked at the 2 D&D shows I love the most. I love Critical Role, to no one's surprise, and I love the Adventure Zone also, which is a podcast, not a live stream. And the thing about Critical Role, one of the things I love about it the most is that it has an expansive cast. There are 7 players on there, counting Mercer, their DM, and they really give a sense of breadth to the world with all the many stories that they're telling individually. And there are so many cool interwoven relationships between the 6 player characters.
Actually, there are 8 counting Mercer.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
Ashley is often stuck in New York, but
yes,
we have 7 player characters and a DM.
And the many guest stars,
yes,
too.
Exactly.
You can't discount them. But if you look at the Adventure Zone, they have a cast of 4, counting their DM, 3 regular players. And what that allows them to do is it gives them a really tight rapport. They're able to build off of each other in terms of comedy, because they're kind of a humor-focused podcast as well, but also in terms of building deep relationships between the individual characters and the party as a whole. So I thought, well, why don't I try and have it both ways? And so I decided to, with Hannah, produce a show that had a main cast of 6 characters, but that was always split up into groups of 3. Our very first episode had a full party of 6, and every episode from there on out has only had parties of 3 characters, because the original party was cut in half at the end of the first episode when half of them fell through a planar vortex and were thrown into a dark mirror universe version of the world that they live in.
Wow. So that party has the short end of the stick, huh?
Well,
in more ways than one. One of the great things about having 2 different parties is that you can really explore some of the dichotomies of Dungeons and Dragons, particularly low-level and high-level play. The party that remained in their world started play at 10th level, or that is to say, everyone started play at 10th level. And so the Light World party, as we affectionately call them, are continuing from that level and going on these grand high-level adventures against demons and so forth. But the party that is thrown into the Dark World have been stripped of most of their levels and are starting play at 3rd level instead.
Wow. Okay.
They had a bad day.
Hannah, is there anything you want to say about it? I feel I covered most of the ground there.
Yeah. One thing, we talked about both being inspired by and obviously adoring both Critical Role and the Adventure Zone. And we looked at Critical Role does a live broadcast, which really allows this audience interaction and community to come together in real time and see everyone's faces and expressions. And the Adventure Zone gets to record and edit their show, which means that it's really tight. They cut out a lot of the dead air, and it's a little easier for people to keep up because they might record for 3 hours and then end up having a 2-hour episode. So again, we're being a bit greedy and trying to get the best of both worlds by filming and recording our show and doing editing on it, adding music and visual effects and cutting out some of the dead air, and if we have to look up a rule and all of that, but keeping in the storytelling and the drama and the goofiness.
Finding when to cut goofiness and when to leave it in is the hardest thing I ever have to do as an editor. It's impossible to figure out where to cut silliness for time because it's so much fun.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's like you both said, it is this marriage of Critical Role and the Adventure Zone, and I feel like YouTube is where they overlap because you still have the visual element, but you still have the ability to edit and tell a story sort of at the pace that you want to do it. Hannah, I'm wondering if you could tell me more about the character you play as well, Mara, for Worlds Apart.
Yeah, so Mara is a human barbarian from the Valashi Desert, which is this area. It's a barren kind of Saharan desert outside of the core civilized Republic of Oridane.
Oh, I should jump in here for just a second. All of these proper nouns that Hannah is using here will probably be only familiar to people who watch the show because this show is set in a new campaign setting that I designed for it.
In fact, 2 campaign settings.
Right.
One of which is this light world that all the characters are from that we started in, and one of which is the dark world, the sort of mirror universe that 3 of the characters are thrown into. And I really don't know anything about that one. James won't tell me anything.
She's very mad about it.
Sometimes I need to know stuff. So that's all going to be a surprise to me, which I am looking forward to.
Yeah.
So my character is a barbarian, which is a class I actually hadn't played before, especially at high levels. A lot of people love to play casters at high levels, and I definitely feel that, but I am enjoying really focusing in on the character and the story and telling story outside of having spells and combat mechanics to rely on. So Mara is the leader of the Skycaller tribe, which is a clan of nomads in this desert, and she has 3 children in the tribe, one of which is leading in her stead. Her eldest son, Haroon, is acting as chieftain while she is off adventuring and trying to prevent the dark forces that are invading from taking over their world.
Hannah is so invested in the development of not only her character and her character's family, but in the creation of this world, that one of the first things she ever sent me as part of working on this project was not just her character sheet, but character sheets for all 3 of Mara's children as well. Basically giving me free reign to do whatever I wanted.
Oh, wait! I didn't say that.
but to use them as NPCs in this world and take her ideas and build off of them, let them flourish into something new.
Absolutely, and we have a lot of backstory elements for Mara, which I'm really excited to get to. Some of which I know what Mara knows, but there are some things that are a mystery to her that I'm looking forward to digging into as part of the campaign.
Mara's also the party mom. In addition to having 3 NPC children, the other 2 members of her party are both, they're like 18 years old.
18 and 19.
Yeah. One is an elf named Zephyr, who my real life brother Cedric plays. And the other is a tiefling named Astrid, and she's a celestial warlock. And so she has flavored this very cute and charming character is sort of like Sailor Moon, like an anime magical girl. And so Mara is, how old is Mara? She's
51.
51. She's 51 years old, a 51-year-old human, and she has these kids basically tagging along with her fighting evil. It's a really fun party dynamic.
It is. It's super, super fun. And now you have this dynamic where you're essentially running 2 games, James. And how does that work? Do the actions of one game affect another? How are you keeping track of like what day it is in what world? Like this seems like a lot to manage.
It is logistically a lot. So one of the main things that I want to do in this campaign, and it hasn't happened yet because we're only a couple of episodes in, but there is absolutely an element of what one party will do will butterfly effect its way into the world of the other party. Because they're separate dimensions, I guess, alternate planes, alternate universes. It's not a one-to-one effect necessarily, but because it is a mirror universe, if one party goes to a city in their world, let's say the city of Arvix, the stronghold of the dragons, if Mara's party goes to the city of Arvix and sees, for instance, the grand statue of the god Lotan Ratu standing in the square of the citadel, and takes note of its shape and how people treat it, if the party in the Dark World were to go to, the same coordinates essentially on their map, they would find that exact same courtyard, that same statue, but twisted and mirrored as if viewed through a carnival mirror, in a dark reflection of their own reality. And the parties have not yet come into that space yet, but they're both heading in that direction, geographically as well as narratively, as it turns out. And I'm very much looking forward to when I can finally make that clear, both to the party and to the viewers. And as far as timekeeping goes, I really have to thank Hannah for this, because she and some of the other players have done an incredible job on making a calendar for this world that is absolutely filled with holidays and special events that I just don't have the time or the creative energy right now to focus on my own. Hannah, do you want to talk about the calendar a little bit?
Yeah, as we were planning the campaign and creating our characters and our backstories and the bonds between characters, James wrote a story setting Bible for us to talk about the world and the gods and the history of this world, and ordain the light world setting is this republic that, except for the last 10 years, has been at peace for 500 years. And so I'm really interested in developing this world and the fantasy economics and academia of how that all fits together. And since traveling and exploring, and to some extent the connection between the parties in terms of time and kind of how long it's been since we've been separated is really important, I developed this calendar with holy days and festivals and civil holidays, and that really helped me immerse, just in the act of making it, immerse myself in this world and the day-to-day life of the people who live there.
And the minutia of it all, I don't think it will necessarily be apparent at all times to viewers, to people listening to the show. But the important thing is that that level of consistency, that bedrock, is there for us. Because even if the details aren't felt, the broader effect will be. It will feel more real. The world will be alive and rich, and things will be happening, even without the player character's input. And that is important to any good campaign and any good setting.
Well, and I also think, I don't know if you've ever met other D&D players, but they are pretty fanatical about the things they love, as most fans tend to be. And they will often track things like the number of days or the amount of times you have swung your sword and hit. So it's good you've already got that sort of thing worked out. Hey everybody, just wanted to take a quick break to let you know that this episode of Tabletop Babble is brought to you by Elderwood Academy. Elderwood Academy are artisans who craft amazing gaming products, including dice towers, dice trays, dice boxes, deck boxes, dice, and more. All the products are handcrafted to look like awesome fantasy gear like spell books, scroll cases, codexes, and other awesome pieces of legendary merch. You are definitely going to want to check this out. I have two of their amazing spell books, and I get so many compliments whenever I bring them to conventions. There are lots of price options. There is lots of customization options. You really should check out Elderwood Academy at elderwoodacademy.com and see all of the goodness that they have there. You can carry your dice around with your keys in this amazing hexagonal wood boxes that they have. They are are just incredible. I'm always in awe of the craftsmanship of their products. So go check it out at elderwoodacademy.com and tell them DSPN sent you. All right, back to the show. Hannah, my day job is producer of videos and television things, and I often get this question: what does a producer do?
And I bet you just love answering that question.
Everything. We do everything.
Exactly.
The real answer is that between James and I, we do everything, right? We are co-producing this.
What are some of the tasks that we do?
So
that you do?
James does most of the video and audio editing and graphic design for the show.
Yep, I've self-taught myself the Adobe Creative Cloud, basically, to use Premiere and Audition and figure out how to make those work better than the free alternatives like Audacity or what have you. And boy, oh boy, that has been a learning experience. But we did no fewer than 6 preview episodes, sort of unaired pilots.
Tech rehearsals.
That not only built up character relationships. So one of the comments we've received on YouTube is that the characters are so rich already here in episode 1. Their relationships are so tight. This is what I usually see, 30 sessions into a campaign. And that's all because, well, we've had this campaign on the mind for like a year, and we've been going back and forth in our group chat about how the characters interact with one another.
A lot of the group has been playing together for a really long time. We didn't just say, oh, let's have a cast of 6 by happenstance. This is us bringing our friends into the professional space that James lives and works in, of the D&D community that we love so much, to get to bring our friends in our home game and share it with this world and this community.
Mm-hmm. And that's another part of the producer's job. It's not just learning how to edit and post things on YouTube and advertise things on social media. It's not just that. It's making sure that all of our friends are loving this game and that they want to keep playing this game, and that playing it brings them joy. It's not a job. I mean, it is a job.
We
have to work hard to make this show happen. I think people would be very surprised to learn how much effort goes into something even like this. I mean, even streaming, where it's press a button and it goes. The amount of behind the scenes stuff is truly staggering. It's why I don't want to stream. It's too much work for me. But the goal of a producer is to make all that work look effortless and have it be a smooth process for everyone involved.
And my main role as co-producer is not only to keep in mind all of those little details and make it work and keep it running, but to try to keep all of that running on time. So managing our schedule and the schedules of our friends and how much time it's going to take to edit and render the finished video, and our social media posting, our outreach, our financial sponsorships. I mean, shout out to all of our fantastic patrons, because Adobe Creative Cloud is fantastic, but you have to pay out the nose for it every month, as I'm sure you know, James.
Yes.
So kind of managing the business aspects of that and juggling the fact that this is a hobby in that it's something we are passionate about. It's a, D&D, we are fans of D&D, but also a job and a professional responsibility for James as someone who's already well known in the D&D space, and for me stepping into this space.
I think as long as we're talking about business, I think it's worth mentioning that no matter what happens when you're making a show like this, the first thing about it has to be doing it exclusively for the fun. But even if you're doing it for the fun, you'll find that purchasing equipment and finding space and buying software or licensing software, as the case may be, is remarkably expensive. I had no idea how expensive a venture this would be going into it. And so the goal for me, really as a hobbyist, because this has to be a fun hobby first and foremost, is that we're not expecting to make any money off of it, but it takes a lot of work to not lose money off of it. A lot of production time is spent acquiring sponsorships from folks like Kobold Press. I love Kobold Press. I use their books in every campaign I ever run, and so it's only natural to me to reach out to them and say, hey, as long as I'm using these books, would you like me to actually advertise for you also? And that worked out great. It worked out really easily, but it took time and it took effort to make it happen. And because of generous patrons and because of sponsorships from small press gaming groups, we are slowly digging ourselves out of the financial hole that you have to dig in order to get a project like this off the ground.
Well, and not even necessarily looking at it as, getting into the black, but also just trying to be able to purchase better equipment and continue upgrading and improving our quality.
Yeah.
Right? Because we, purchased all this initial equipment and balanced kind of the price point of, okay, what can we afford to get good quality, but clearly not, a full-on studio standard. And then our audio is, I'll say, modestly pretty good, but it could be better.
Uh-huh.
And we would love to make it better and really get it even more polished.
Yeah. And one of the other things that reaching out to patrons and using crowdfunding services like Patreon allows us to do is to set goals for ourselves. I know, and I'm sure you know, James, that people love listening to D&D as a podcast. And video is really, really special to me because I love seeing the expressions that players make, and I love seeing all of it. I love the effects and I love the art. But podcasts are really dang convenient. And unfortunately, that means they're also expensive to produce. There's so much on both my plate and Hannah's plate right now, what with our full-time jobs on top of this essentially part-time job, that dedicating another 5 to 10 hours a week to turn our audio into something beautiful as a podcast just isn't in the cards for me. So one of the things we decided to do, this is our most important side project. So let's set our very first Patreon goal as hiring a podcast editor. And we're making great progress towards that.
Hi, Rudy. Are you editing this one?
So there's all sorts of things that we have to have our sights on as producers, and a lot of that is very forward thinking. I, as the DM, am thinking, one step in the future as I plan for my next game session. But Hannah and I together have to be thinking 10 steps in the future as well. How will we continue making this show as amazing as we can? How will we continue producing something excellent and keep showing it to more and more people?
Speaking of showing things to more and more people, James, I know you did a bunch of work for the Tome of Beasts.
Which James are we talking about?
James Introcaso. Well, you also did a bunch of work for the Tome of Beasts and Creature Codex.
Not Tome of Beasts, just Creature Codex.
Okay. So we just got our hands on the Creature Codex, and we're super excited to use it in Worlds Apart. Is there a monster you created for Creature Codex that you'd really love to see in our game?
Oh, yeah. Let me think. What was the highest challenge rating?
Keep in mind that we have 3-person parties.
Right. So the 3-headed clockwork dragon would be perfect. One head per PC.
Sounds great.
Yeah, I'm actually very fond of the exploding toad. Is one of my monsters. So
I love
that's
that
probably
art.
the one I'm most excited about.
The fart toad.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. The exploding toad is one of the first art assets from the Creature Codex I was able to see, and boy, do I love it. One of the great things about partnering with Kobold Press on Worlds Apart is that they have granted us permission to use art from the Creature Codex and Tome of Beasts in the show itself. So one of the things that always gives me pause with other D&D shows is that I want to better see the action that's happening on screen. And first and foremost, that means character art. I love to know what the characters look like. And
we are lucky enough that one of our players, actually, 2 of our players are professional artists, but one of them created all of the character art So
Yeah.
we got to work with her as we were planning our characters to design how all of these characters would look and what their outfits would be and their styles and colors. And she's done a series of design posts on that process for our Patreon. But we have this custom character art from Kat, who plays Krauna, the tiefling bard. And that's something that we are lucky to have, to be able to commission one of our players for that art.
Yeah. And it's not just that art exists, but it's that art exists as more than a tiny 1 centimeter circle character portrait on screen. I really don't like having to squint and try and guess about what a character looks like. I love to get that art front and center and really see what those characters are and what they're doing on screen. And as and hey, it's my show. As the guy designing it, I get to do what I like on screen. And I suspect that other people like it too. So I have that character art front and center all the time, but I also have this little bit of space beneath my head on the multi-view screen, and I love to use that space to show off art of magic items or art of villainous NPCs that I've commissioned either from Kat, our player and lead artist, or from other people that I've met through Critical Role art, for instance. Or, like I was saying, I will use the Kobold Press art assets and it will be displayed right there on screen. You can look at the characters, you can look at the monster art, and you can really see in your head what that battle looks like. So that's just awesome to me. I don't see that on any other stream or any other show online. And being able to do that through the power of editing makes me very happy as a creator.
James, you were asking me about YouTube earlier and marrying the styles of Critical Role in the Adventure Zone. And one of the things that we found very interesting when we first conceived of this project was that there aren't more shows that are recorded and edited on YouTube. There aren't more D&D shows. There's a lot of people in the D&D community streaming live on Twitch, which is super fun, and there's a lot of people in the D&D community recording talks and videos and DM tips on YouTube, which is also awesome and we love to watch. But bringing this together and trying to figure out how we can create something that combines the best of both of those worlds, something that really hasn't been done before in that space, is really interesting and a challenge in different ways.
Yeah, there's only 2 major D&D shows that I've ever seen natively on YouTube. And one of them is Force Grey, which I think is a very cool idea. Not my favorite D&D show ever. I think it's a little overproduced from a purely technical standpoint, but it's very fun. But I've noticed that even that show was initially broadcast on Twitch, just because that's the place where people go to see D&D. And the other show that appeared natively on YouTube is Girl Scouts Glory, which has just returned and is now a live stream on Twitch. YouTube is not the platform for actual play shows, as far as I'm aware. And as a producer wearing that hat, it's very apparent to me that maybe I'm making a, in big scare quotes, poor business decision by putting this show on YouTube. But wearing my DM hat and my I love to play D&D and I want to share it with people hat, I don't care. I just want to make what's fun for me and for Hannah and for all of our players, and I want to share that with people.
We just want to produce the art in the way that's creatively exciting to us.
Yeah, platform be damned.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you something. I think it's great. I think it's an awesome show. And I think you should be doing it the way that excites you, because you're going to pour so much of your time, your money, and the game you love really into this, right? You're taking time to play the game in this way because you enjoy playing it that way. So I think this is only going to go up from here as you pick up steam, which is really cool. I have to say about the art, one of my favorite moments in the show visually is when you, at the end of the first episode, there is something that happens wherein we there's sort of this art of an individual in a decorative military dress, I think would be fair to say, carrying a very terrifying staff. And then the image changes, which I think is indicative sort of the entire show and the entire premise of what you're going for. The image changes into something else, and it's awesome.
It's a visual echo of the twist that happens narratively.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is awesome and terrifying, and the art is really, really great. Now, I need to ask this question because you are both game designers, because this is an original world, because James, you may have worked on a campaign setting in your life at this point that everybody knows about. Is there a plan? And I know I know that this is a thing that is a huge, huge thing. So it is no small task, and it would not be coming anytime soon. So it's not me harassing you for it. I'm just wondering, is there a plan for a Worlds Apart book at some point?
Wow, wouldn't that be awesome? It exists in the vaguest of terms as a setting Bible on my hard drive. I think it must be like a 20, 30-page PDF that I made solely for me and my players, so they and anyone who makes art for us. Actually, not terribly unlike the story Bible that you and I received, James, when we were working on an actual D&D project that exists for us and our collaborators, that I could, if I had the time and inclination to turn into a full campaign setting, because I designed it using a lot of the same styles and principles that I used when I was designing the Critical Role Tal'Dorei campaign setting. I used the same chapter layouts and headers and all of that to keep my work organized, because I'm desperate to stay organized in this particular venture. It'll go off the rails very quickly if I just leave notes everywhere. And I think if an interest is expressed by people, that is not an impossibility.
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked this, James, because I have talked before, James Haeck and I have talked before about, like, we don't have any expectation that this will happen. As you said, that's a big project and would certainly be way down the road. But in addition to your PDF setting Bible, I have Google Docs and notebooks galore of the world building I've been doing because I'm really enjoying it. And I have so much written about the area where my character is from and the educational system and what kinds of magic are available in this world and some of the history and politics. So no expectation, but being able to do something like that to really get to share the juicy, juicy lore details of this world, that's a dream that I have.
Yeah, we're being a little coy, but if people want this, we would love nothing more than to do it.
Wow. That's really, really great. And I would be excited to see something like that. But back to Worlds Apart show, here's the big question. Will there be guest stars on Worlds Apart show? Are you planning on bringing in, I know you're there in that populated Seattle area. I won't give away your address, but and I'm just saying you've got access to the D&D stars. Will you be bringing on some guest stars at some point?
Hannah, we were just talking about this while we were brushing our teeth this morning. How about you take this one?
Sure. So the answer is yes, absolutely. There are a bunch of people who are probably far too busy and famous for us to ever get as guest stars, and there are a bunch of people who are very busy, but maybe if we're really, really nice to them and feed them some cookies, they would come and be guest stars. So yes, we have some technical things to work out in terms of camera angles and tables and all of that, fitting another player or two at the table. But this is absolutely something that will happen. And I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, so in no uncertain terms, yes, there will be.
I think we all know that I'm thinking of Mark Zuckerberg sitting down at the table.
Well, he has to play a construct. We're forge.
That's
Yeah.
great. So is there, I know we're just starting out here. In your wildest dreams, is there an end game to Worlds Apart where you start over, or can you just keep sending parties into darker and darker worlds to level them down?
I will say that my greatest weakness as a DM is I think of the ending to my campaigns at the beginning.
We all do.
It's my greatest challenge. Yeah, it's like, and every time I run a campaign, I will start it, and then 2 years later, I'll find that the ending I planned 2 years ago is nothing like the one we actually came to, but it was awesome anyway.
We were just talking the other day, and you were saying that the campaign has never. You've run a lot of campaigns, but it's never ended the way you planned it.
No, and I wouldn't have it any other way. So yes, there is absolutely an endgame scenario for Worlds Apart. I would love to reach it and really have the story come to its intended climax. But the goal, as always, is to have the world be a grand playground for the player characters and for them to explore their characters' stories in addition to the plot that I have brewed up. Because that's what blows my mind about this show is that I have my own opinion of my storytelling abilities and I like the stories I tell, but I'm constantly blown away by the character-driven stories that my friends come up with. And actually, one of the things that we did to facilitate this is right from the very beginning, we designed these 6 characters to pair up. Every character in Worlds Apart has a bonded character, we call them, and they did a duet session in our pregame to make that relationship ironclad. So Mara has a very close relationship with a human man named Tico, who is raised by elven refugees.
That's one of the first times Tico has been referred to a man and not a boy.
Yeah, I very intentionally did that.
By no means the youngest character in the
I keep calling Tico a boy because he's such a sweetheart, but no, he's a man. He's a man. But anyway, Mara has a bond with Tico, the barbarian, and the thief have a bond together. Zephyr, the elf paladin of the nature goddess Kieva, has a close bond with Aceranon, the half-orc cleric of the god of the dead and memory, Nerugal. And finally, Astrid, the celestial magical girl warlock tiefling, has a close bond with her half-sister, Krauna, the tiefling bard. And the thing about all of these bonds is that none of these characters who are bonded are in a party together. Their bonded character is inexorably in the other party. So there is always an immediate tension between these parties to reunite. That goal is always present in their minds, and it leads to some truly incredible character moments because these characters are incredibly able to play off of one another even when they aren't in the same plane of existence together, and that is astounding to me.
That's really cool.
I just want to echo, it's so much fun, and as a player, I love seeing the things that my friends, my fellow players come up with. I look forward to the sessions of the other group, the group that I'm not playing in, almost as much as I look forward getting to play D&D, which says how much I love watching their time in front of the camera being ridiculous and making us all giggle madly and having these character moments, these brilliant, beautiful, heartbreaking backstories sometimes, and the things that they've all brought to the world that are completely distinct but meld perfectly with what James and I have created for this setting.
There's some real emotion in this show. The waterworks get turned on more than once in the first couple of episodes. It's wild.
Wow. That is really, really great. And you all are also having a blast while you're doing this. You can tell that there's not just a bond between characters, but a bond between the players who are playing. You all look like great friends. The other thing about this is, as you have these 2 worlds, what is your release schedule like? Is it, every other episode we're in the world we were in every other episode ago? How does that work?
Yeah, so we record every weekend. This month is a bit of an anomaly, but we record every weekend, and we will swap back and forth between the party that is in the Republic of Oridane, the light world, and the Empire of Tenebrae, the dark world. And because of the time it takes to edit, we unfortunately release less frequently than that. Or perhaps fortunately. I mean, it gives me the time to polish this stuff and really make it sing. But we release bi-weekly, which means that we've actually accrued quite a backlog of content, which is very fortunate because it allows us to take time off if we need to, and improve our equipment over the course of several weeks.
On one hand, I would love to be able, I'd love for us to have the time to edit these faster and spend more time on it and release every week because I want to get this story out to people and share it with the world. But one unexpected thing that releasing bi-weekly has done is give an audience who's already saturated with D&D shows and stories that they follow to catch up. Now a podcast, definitely helps with the accessibility of that. So again, we would love to release as a podcast, but it gives our viewers plenty of time to watch it and stay caught up. And they're impatient for the next episode, but also enjoy having time to not feel like they're about to fall behind.
Yeah. So to really answer your question, we release every other Monday at 9 in the morning, and every episode we swap between the Oridane, the Light World party, and the Tenebrae, the Dark World party. So you'll go back and forth, much like if you were reading a novel with several point of view characters. You might switch back and forth between chapters on who is doing the adventuring. And as long as we're on the topic, our top patrons on Patreon get episodes a day early on the Sunday before it would otherwise release.
I think one thing that should also be said is these are meaty episodes, right? We're not talking about hour long. We're talking about 2.5 or more hours.
We're trying to keep it around 2.5 for everyone's sake.
But yeah, it's a full Critical Role episode. But whereas Critical Role may, through general mirth and silliness, balloon out to 4 or 5 hours, our editing allows us to really pull it back in and give you the juicy parts of the story, turning a 3.5 hour recording session into a 2.5 hour episode.
Yeah. Plus, no racists in chat. You get that benefit. They might be in the YouTube comments, but they're.
We run a tight ship there.
Excellent.
Yeah, I don't want to jinx it here, but so far the YouTube comments have been fine.
Knocking on wood somewhere. Yeah.
Well, this is amazing, and people should definitely check it out. You two are wonderful. Worlds Apart is wonderful, and you're also putting great work and good vibes out into the world. So where can people go to find out more? James, let's start with you.
The best place you can find me is on my Twitter. I'll bet there will be a link down below, but it's at James J. Haeck, Haeck. But I also write 2 to 3 articles a week over at dndbeyond.com. So no matter what time of the week you go over there, you'll find some sort of new article talking about D&D, the history of D&D, or ways to play that you might not have considered before.
Awesome. And Hannah, where can people find you?
I am also on Twitter at Wild Rose Mage, and you can find me through James as well, and check out Worlds Apart Show, which is at Worlds Apart Show on Twitter, and YouTube/Worlds Apart, and www.worldsapartshow.com. So hopefully our SEO is up there. You should be able to find us real easily.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you both so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, James. It's been such fun chatting with you.
I always love talking with you, James.
What a great interview. Those are good friends of mine. James and Hannah are just incredible. People, Tabletop Babble needs your help finding a new audience. If you could please use your word of mouth to let people know about the show, use social media, tweet, Facebook, all that kind of stuff, I would really appreciate it. And if you can head on over to iTunes and leave us a review, that would mean the world to me. It's totally free to you and really helps out the show. Plus, if you leave us a 5-star review, I will read it out loud. Verbatim, you can make me say anything you want. All right, people, you can find me on Twitter at James Introcaso. That's JamesIntrocaso. Also, check out my blog, World Builder Blog, to see all of the cool game design stuff I'm doing. It's at worldbuilderblog.com. Tabletop Babble is a show on the Don't Split the Podcast Network. Thanks to Rudy Basso for founding it with me. Our theme music, which you're listening to right now, was provided by Battle Bards. Don't forget that RPGs are like sex. There are many accessories that can enhance your experience. Hey everybody, thanks for listening. This episode of Tabletop Babble was brought to you by Archvillain Games. Archvillain Games is having a Kickstarter right now selling character sheet gauntlets, which are binders for your character sheet. They have a patent-pending design, figurine-level detail, and they make your character sheet the most beautiful thing at the table. They're detailed covers for fighter, rogues, clerics, and wizards, but really, they work with any class. They are super duper beautiful. I have seen these things in person at D&D in a castle. Each one can hold up to 5 character sheets. They're available painted or unpainted, and they are high durability ABS injection molded plastic. Over $40,000 has been spent on the design and prototyping of these amazing character sheet gauntlets. You can get a paint kit as an add-on from Army Painter, which will let you make your gauntlet exactly how you want it, or you can get it already painted and have the work done for you. These are really great. They're made to work with a blank piece of paper or with the standard 5e character sheet. You can see the most important details when the cover of this thing is closed, and you can open up the cover to access the full character sheet on the front or turn it over to access a complete spell sheet on the back. Head on over to archvillaingames.com or search for Archvillain Games on Kickstarter to grab your Archvillain gauntlet today. They are incredible.